Hello, I'm Doug, owner of Electric Bike Solutions LLC, and today we're going to talk about batteries. And I want to start with some of the more technical terms that you may see when you're looking some of these up on the website. You can follow along at the bottom of the screen with some of these terms, but voltage is an obvious one, 24, 36, 48, and so on. The higher the voltage, the more wattage and power you will have. Another one you often see is amp hours. Now, amp hours is a little different than amps. Amp hours is actually the amount of fuel that the battery has. So the more amp hours, the heavier the battery, the bigger the battery, but the further you can travel. In addition to that, wattage is something you hear. That's total power being used. The calculation is very similar to how it's done for your home. Wattage is determined by the amount of voltage multiplied by the amount of amps being drawn. Not amp hours, that's your fuel gauge, the amount of amps being drawn. Another one is watt hours. Watt hours is simply the voltage multiplied by the amp hours. So with a 48 volt battery, if it's a 12 amp hour battery, you multiply those two together, that would get you your watt hours. And finally, another more technical one is called a C rating. So if I have a 12 amp hour battery and I'm going to test it at 1 C of draw, that means I'm testing it at 12 amps of draw. And it should go for approximately an hour with a 12 amp hour battery. That's 1 C. If I tested it at 2 C, that means I'd be running it at 24 amps and it would only last approximately a half hour. So you can kind of see how those different terms fluctuate. Right now we're going to go ahead and get to the various types of batteries we sell at Electric Bike Solutions and go over some of the details of those specific batteries with you. The first battery we're going to look at here is our 48 volt, what is actually a 52 volt, I'll explain that in a moment, battery for our high powered geared motor system. The battery itself is made of what's called 18650 cells. That just describes the dimensions. They are a lithium ion, nickel, manganese, cobalt, latest and greatest in lithium ion technology used in a lot of the EVs out there like Tesla. In this particular case, it is a 12 amp hour battery, which again is your fuel gauge. Most of my customers get at least 25 miles per charge out of this. However, if you use it in a sparing manner or use a pedal assist on a lower level, etc., I have customers that routinely get almost twice that much. So it's really about how you're going to use it. But you can count on 25 in pretty much all conditions. I'd mentioned that this is actually a 52 volt battery. Most of the batteries out there that are advertised at 48 volts have 13 cell banks in series. And when they're fully charged right off the charger, it's 4.2 volts for each cell bank. So if you multiply that by the 13, you get 54.6, which is the type of charger that would be used with it. Here at Electric Bike Solutions, we have added a cell bank to these. So you now have 14, which means you charge up to over 58 volts, 58.8 to be exact, right off the charger. Of course, it's going to settle down a little bit after that. However, under load, when you're using the bike, it's going to operate at a higher window, which does a couple of things. It's going to give you a little bit longer range. It's going to give you more power, 7-8%, as well as it's easier on the battery because we've separated the workload over 14 cell banks instead of 13. So that's just an enhancement we made at no additional cost to you, the customer. So some of the details of the specific operation for this battery. In the front you can see we have a plug which runs to a couple of connectors that are going to go to the controller. It's got a mounting plate, comes with some hardware. The key switch operation, simply to remove this, you go back and you can remove it from your bike. This plate would mount on the rack of your bike, and then with it lined up here, then the pin goes into the plate and that locks in place. But it's still off, and I can take my key with me just as if it was my car. And then when I come back and I want to go somewhere, I merely click it one more time. That would be in a clockwise position, and parallel to the ground or parallel with the battery is on. I cannot remove the key when it is on. Again, to turn it off, Take it with me. The pin is still in place. And then one more counterclockwise, I have to push it in. One more counterclockwise click, fully recesses the pin, and now I can remove it from the rack. And that is pretty much it for the operation of the battery, other than charging, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. So here's what the charger for the battery looks like. It might seem a little counterintuitive, however, it's best to plug the charger into the wall outlet first, and then we're going to plug it in to the battery. It's an RCA jack, and we're going to plug that directly into the RCA female side on the battery. You see that the light goes from green to red. So when it's charging, it's red. The charger itself will get a little bit warm, so you want to keep it in a ventilated area. These chargers are very durable, but it's best to keep them in a ventilated area. Again, when it's out, it's going to be green. Plug it in the wall first. It's important to make sure you go straight in. If you go at an angle, it's going to arc and pop on you. It's not going to hurt anything, but it might startle you. Just go straight in. And again, while it's red, it's charging. When it turns green, it is done charging. It is then best, once you notice it's green, to go ahead and unplug everything. Unplug the charger from the wall, unplug it from the battery. That will be better on the battery and the charger. If you happen to leave it on overnight or for a day or something, that's not bad, but you don't want to leave it plugged in at all times. Once you notice it's green, unplug everything. We have two types of 36-volt batteries. One of them is a rack mount, just like the 48-volt battery we were just discussing. The only difference is it will be a little bit shorter because it has fewer cells, since it is just 36 volts. The other one we have is this 36-volt 10 amp hour tube battery that mounts where your water bottle goes. It does require, because of its length, that the frame be at least an 18-inch size or bigger. That's roughly a medium or larger than that. And the operation for this battery is a little bit different. The key that you see here is really just for the holder, to hold the battery in place. It doesn't turn the system on and off. The on and off switch for this is right here on the bottom. O for off, straight line is on. Got a connection right here that will run out to your controller. And then the other nice feature about this, it also has an indicator light, so you can see approximately what level you're at. Again, same type of cells. It's a 10 amp hour, so a little bit less distance than the 12 amp hour battery, but it is a nice centrally located battery that a lot of customers find very helpful and efficient in that place. And finally, we have one remaining option that's not currently on our site, but you can call us and we can do this. The battery you see there is actually the same one that is in the case. This one has been removed from the case, rewired for charge port and discharge ports, so that it could be put into a triangle frame bag and centrally located on the bike. From time to time, we have customers that don't want to put it on a rack. They want the 48 volt or 36 volt 12 amp hour centered in their frame, and this is a great way to go. The cost is just slightly more at $45, and that includes the bag and the labor for rewiring and removing it from the case. Okay, that's it for all of our batteries. As always, do not hesitate to call us at 707-439-3179 to get any other questions you may have answered. We'd be happy to do that. Thank you.